Welcome to Lazy But GK One-Liner, your smart stop for quick, easy and powerful GK. Today's Class 3 is all about Vedic Age, from early and later Vedic periods, their society, religion, and legacy. Let's get started. Section 1. The Early Vedic Period, 1500 to 1000 BCE. Question 1. Who were the people of the early Vedic age? Answer. Indo-Aryans. Question 2. What is the main source of early Vedic history? Answer. The Rig Veda. Question 3. Which region was the center of early Vedic culture? Answer. Sapta Sindhu, the land of 7 rivers. Question 4. What was the main occupation of the early Vedic people? Answer. Cattle rearing. Question 5. How was wealth measured in the early Vedic age? Answer. By the number of cows. Question 6. Which metal was mainly used during the early Vedic period? Answer. Copper. Question 7. What was the main political unit of early Vedic society? Answer. Jana or tribe. Question 8. Who was the leader of the tribe in the early Vedic age? Answer. The Rajan or chief. Question 9. Which two assemblies helped the Rajan in administration? Answer. Sabha, Elder Council, and Samiti, General Assembly. Question 10. Which famous battle is mentioned in the Rig Veda? Answer. The Battle of 10 Kings, Dasrajana. Question 11. Which river was praised as Naditma in the Rig Veda? Answer. The Saraswati River. Question 12. What was the family structure of early Vedic people? Answer. Patriarchal families, women respected. Question 13. Was polygamy common in the early Vedic age? Answer. No, monogamy was more common. Question 14. Who were the women scholars of the Rig Veda? Answer. Lopamudra, Ghosha, and Apala. Question 15. Who was the chief god of the Rig Veda? Answer. Indra, Purandara, destroyer of forts. Question 16. Who was the fire god and divine mediator? Answer. Agni. Question 17. What was Soma in Vedic rituals? Answer. A sacred drink and deity. Question 18. Did early Vedic people worship idols? Answer. No, they worshipped natural forces. Question 19. Was there a rigid caste system in the early Vedic age? Answer. No, division was based on work. Question 20. What was the main language of the early Vedic age? Answer. Vedic Sanskrit. Section 2, Transition Phase, 1000 BCE onwards. Question 21. What major economic change occurred after the early Vedic age? Answer. Shift from pastoralism to agriculture. Question 22. What new settlement pattern appeared after the early Vedic period? Answer. Permanent villages and farms. Section 3. The later Vedic period, 1000 to 600 BCE. Question 23. What were the main texts of the later Vedic age? Answer. Samaveda, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda. Question 24. Which texts explained rituals and philosophy in the later Vedic age? Answer. Brahmans, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. Question 25. Which Upanishad teaches the phrase, Tattvamasi? Answer. Chandogya Upanishad. Question 26. Which Upanishad describes Nachiketa and Yam? Answer: Katha Upanishad. Question 27. What was the dominant occupation in the later Vedic society? Answer: agriculture. Question 28. Which metal became important during the later Vedic age? Answer: iron, called Shama or Krishna Ayas. Question 29. What were the important crops of the later Vedic period? Answer: rice, wheat, and barley. Question 30. Which animals were domesticated in the later Vedic age? Answer: cow, horse, elephant, and ox. Question 31. Which were the two important political units of the later Vedic age? Answer: Janpadas of Kuru and Panchala. Question 32. Who were key officials in later Vedic administration? Answer: Purohita, priest, Senani, army chief, Gramin, village head. Question 33. What happened to Sabha and Samiti in the later Vedic age? Answer: they lost power, kings became stronger. Question 34. Which social system was formalized in the later Vedic age? Answer: Varna system of 4 classes. Question 35. Did women retain their earlier status in the later Vedic period? Answer: no, their status declined. Question 36. Who were the main gods of the later Vedic religion? Answer: Prajapati, Vishnu, Rudra, and Pushan. Question 37. What were the famous royal sacrifices of the later Vedic age? Answer: Ashwamedha, Rajsuya, and Vajpaya. Question 38. Which philosophy became dominant in the later Vedic period? Answer: Upanishadic philosophy, Atman equals Brahman, Karma and rebirth. Question 39. What was the system of education in the later Vedic age? Answer: Gurukula system. Question 40. What was the ashram system of life? Answer: 4 stages: student, householder, hermit, renouncer. Section 4, towards 600 BCE. Question 41. What new political units emerged around 600 BCE? Answer: Mahajanapads, 16 large states. Question 42. Which kingdom rose to great power around 600 BCE? Answer: Magad. Question 43. What factor promoted urban growth after 1000 BCE? Answer: use of iron tools in farming. Question 44. What system strengthened kingship in the later Vedic age? Answer: land grants to priests and officials. Question 45. Which new religions emerged in the 6th century BCE? Answer: Buddhism and Jainism. Question 46. Who were the Ajivikas in ancient India? Answer: a contemporary religious sect. Question 47. Which great epics were composed during the later Vedic age? Answer: Ramayana and Mahabharata. Question 48. Which languages developed from Sanskrit after the Vedic period? Answer: Prakrits and Pali. Question 49. Which foreign empire influenced northwestern India? Answer: Achaemenid Persian Empire. Question 50. Which medical texts belong to this period? Answer: Charka Sanhita and Sushruta Sanhita, early Ayurveda. Section 5, Legacy of the Vedic Age. Question 51. What is the greatest contribution of Vedic literature? Answer: Foundation of Indian philosophy and culture. Question 52. Which social system shaped Indian society for centuries? Answer. Varna system. Question 53. What is the central philosophy of the Upanishads? Answer. Unity of Atman and Brahman. Question 54. Which life discipline system originated in the Vedic Age? Answer. Ashram system. Question 55. Which educational tradition began in the Vedic Age? Answer. Gurukula tradition. Question 56. Which ideas of kingship continued from Vedic times? Answer. Divine approval and ritual authority. Question 57. Which rituals continued into later Hinduism? Answer. Fire sacrifices and yagyas. Question 58. Which Vedic gods evolved into major Hindu deities? Answer. Vishnu and Rudra, Shiva. Question 59. Which literary tradition began during the Vedic Age? Answer. Sanskrit scriptures and epic poetry. Question 60. Why is the Vedic Age important in Indian history? Answer. It laid the foundation of Indian religion, culture, society, and thought.